All right, as Democrats continue to protest the president's temporary travel restrictions, the Secretary of Homeland Security is warning that terrorists are looking to exploit weaknesses in our immigration policy as it exists.
We know that there are thousands of fighters coming out of the caliphate fight that have papers that could could bring them to certainly Western Europe and the United States. The terrorists are attempting to gain access to the United States, passing themselves off potentially as refugees. I do believe that they have got that in mind.
And they made it easy for us. They actually said they're trying to do that. Ryan Mauro here is national security analyst with the Clarion Project. Ryan, during that testimony with General Kelly, the first thing he did is took responsibility for not communicating effectively the pause. How much do we need the pause?
Well, I think that the pause is better than what we had before, right? Because when you actually read the executive order, which I recommend people do because I think most people haven't, what you see is that you have the pause and then you have extreme vetting procedures that are put in to vet out ideological enemies of the United States, not just terrorist operatives, but people that might want to oppress gays or conduct honor killings against women. And that allows you to better identify your friends. So I have mixed feelings. There's some things about it that I would like exceptions with the travel ban. It's not a Muslim ban, but overall it's better than before, and we're headed in the right direction.
And, you know, these countries are really made up of the collapsed governments. I mean, Libya's a mess. Sudan, you tell me where the government is. Somalia, we can't get here. In Yemen, believe me, it is an absolute travesty what takes place there, let alone Iraq. We know the challenges. And we also have a situation where Afghanistan and Pakistan are not included.
Right. And that's partially because of just practicality. The first step when they're choosing these countries is they're going by off of the criteria of the Obama administration. So I could imagine a conversation where they said, if we want to build consensus for this, then let's use the Obama administration's framework and take it a step further. But then when you talk about countries like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, where you have more people going back and forth, more businesses, I can see where the calculation would be different, but extreme vetting will help take care of that. If someone's coming from Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, that will be considered as part of extreme vetting.
So stop me if I'm wrong here. Part of what they propose in the executive order is to do a pause in these nations because we think that there's an imminent danger. Not specific that they reveal, but an imminent danger because of the likelihood of Islamic extremists coming here because of the plethora of small attacks that have taken place over the last few years. So do you feel as though those 7 nations, to pass it, okay, but to be totally comprehensive, you've got to include other nations? From Saudi Arabia will jeopardize relations, Pakistan will jeopardize relations, and Afghanistan will jeopardize relations. But what's your focus?
Every single country. Have a specified vetting process for every single country based on which groups are threatening you there. And it shouldn't just be about terrorist operatives. Look at polls of Muslim-majority countries around the world. Look how many will say something like Al-Qaeda is a legitimate resistance group, not a terrorist group. That's not a terrorist operative, but it's someone that has an extremist mindset that can become a threat in the future. That's where the vetting has to be. And it's amazing to me that progressives haven't celebrated parts of the executive order that specifically say we're going to look for people that believe in honor killings, that want to oppress gays, that want to undermine our values, even if they're not terrorist operatives. Those are progressive issues.
So last week, or a couple of days ago, there were 74 different terror attacks that the Trump administration thinks were played down over the last 8 years. We know about Orlando, we know about San Bernardino, we know about Fort Hood. But when you looked at that list, were you also stunned? And do you feel as though that more of these attacks weren't reported more vociferously, more comprehensively?
Honestly, when I looked at the list of attacks, I thought they were adequately covered, but what wasn't covered was issues of radical Islam. There's not a tally of the number of arrests and attacks that happen. So we have cultural ADD in this country. So something happens and people forget about it the next day. The media is not giving a comprehensive overview so people can see the scale of all this, focus on the polls so they understand the extremist opinion around the world that we're up against, and stop citing groups that attack those that discuss radical Islam as Islamophobes. Right. I mean, there is a real fear to talk about this. I just got back from the Middle East, and one of the things that struck me is that the Muslims I met with were using terms like radical Islam, and when I said, hey, you know, back in the United States, if we say that, we're called a bigot, and they couldn't understand. They're like, why? That makes no sense.
Right, because that makes them look good because they're not radical.
Exactly.
They wanted dissemination, so Barack Obama had a different feeling. We know that not only does Donald Trump believe that, he put it in his inaugural address. Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.